Alright guys, welcome back to the workshop. So I just want to point out that I'm actually using a new wireless mic for the first time. So I'm still trying to work out the best settings to actually put it on. So hopefully the audio quality in this video isn't too bad, but just bear with me while I kind of get used to it, find out the best settings to actually have it on. So this is going to be the first video in a series of videos that I'm going to be releasing over the next week or two. Evolution Power Tools have just sent me some of their new 18-volt EXT cordless tools for me to review. I've got the dust extractor, circular saw, and two of their Mitre saws, one sliding, one not. What I'm going to be doing is releasing a separate video on each one of these. I'm going to show you what comes in the box and then run through all the features that the tool has and give you a quick demo of the tool. So enjoy. So Evolution Power Tools have given me a discount code. Up until the 31st of May, you can get 10% off using the code GRUMPIES. That's for anything on their website, link in the video description. So up until the 31st of May, you'll get 10% off, and then as of the 1st of June, it reverts down to 5%. So use the code GRUMPYS, that's GRUMPIES, all in capitals, and you can get yourself 10%. So one of the unique selling points with these tools is the EXT battery platform, and that's because it's actually compatible with the Erbauer EXT battery platform. So you can mix and match the tools and batteries, which I think is a really good idea. So this is the Evolution R185 sliding mitre saw. So let's get it out of the box. I'll show you what it comes with in the box, and then we'll take a close look at it and I'll go through all the different features that the saw has. So got the blade. Usual instructions. Then we've got some of the various plastic knobs, clamp, rails, battery, some more pieces, charger, dust bag, the motor, and that's where the blade is fitted. And the lower section of the saw. So as you can see, the Evolution saws actually come in the box broken down into sections, and you have to assemble it yourself, unlike most other brands that come already assembled, but it allows them to fit it into a much smaller package. So I think the first thing to do is let's get the battery on charge, because I'm not sure whether it's going to come charged up or not. So we get the battery on charge. Right, so the first thing to do, take your rails and making sure the Evolution logo is the right way up. They just get inserted through the carriage like so. Then you get this little plastic knob with the spring. Make sure you don't lose the spring, and that simply screws into the hole on the top. Then you take the motor housing and you've got the two holes where the rails locate into, and that just slots over the end of the rails and then should just push into place. You've got to push it on far enough until you hear the clicks, and that is that fitted in position. So to fit the table extensions using the supplied Allen key, just loosen the Allen bolts. And this just locates in there like that. Insert the bolts back in and tighten them up. And you do exactly the same for the other side. Then this plastic knob just screws into the front section. So the final thing to do is fit the blade. Now the blade lock is there, so you just press that in and that stops the shaft from turning as you tighten up or loosen the blade. So one thing to note is the inner arbor is actually two-sided. So you have to make sure you've got the right side facing out. So if I put it the wrong way on the blade, you can see that it's too loose, but flipping it round the correct way, you can see it's a nice snug fit. Right, so fitting the blade is really simple. Take your inner arbor, making sure it's the right way round. You've got two flat sections which correspond with the flat sections on the spindle. Line those up and that simply just pushes in place. Lift the plastic guard up. You've got an arrow up here which tells you the direction of the blade, and you've got an arrow on your blade. Simply put that over and that should slot into the middle. Then you take your outer arbor and insert that, remembering it's a left-hand thread, so it tightens up anti-clockwise, and that will make sure it's located, and then tighten that up. When tightening, don't forget to press the spindle lock, and then just crank that down, don't over tighten it, and that should be perfect. So the battery just slides in at the back and then it clips into place. So let's see how loud it is, shall we? that's not too loud at all. Right, so a quick test to see just how loud it is. My old phone is around about a metre away from the saw, so let's give it a test and see how loud it actually is. So about 85 decibels, which is reasonably loud, but it doesn't actually sound as loud as my Hikoki one. Right, so the saw's powered with an 18 volt brushed DC motor with a no load speed of 4,200, and it comes supplied with Evolution's multi-purpose blade, so it cuts anything from wood, mild steel, plastic, etc. Right, so the cutting capabilities are as follows. For mild steel plate, the max thickness is 6mm or 1/4 of an inch. For mild steel box section, max wall thickness is 3mm or 1/16 of an inch. And for wood, the capacity at 90, the height is 58mm or 2¼ inches, and the capacity at 90 for the cross cut is 210mm or 8¼ inches. Right, so max cutting angles, it might 50 degrees to the left and 50 degrees to the right, and the saw will also bevel from 0 to 45 degrees. So with the saw set at 0 or 90 degrees and beveled to 45, it'll cut a max width of 210mm or 8¼ inches and a height of 40mm, 1½ inches. So with the saw set to 45 degrees and the bevel at 0, you'll be able to cut a maximum width of 145mm or 5¾ inches by a height of 58mm or 2¼ inches. So with the saw set to 45 degrees and beveled to 45 degrees, you can cut a maximum width of 145mm or 5¾ by a height of 40mm or 1½ inches. So the blade diameter is 185mm or 7¼ inches. The bore is 20mm. The thickness or kerf of the blade is 1.7mm or 1/16, and the number of teeth is 20. So when you're ready to use the saw, just pull the pin out and then you can undo that by turning the knob, and then you can slide the saw. So to lock and unlock the saw and change the angles, you've got a little catch underneath. So you twist it anti-clockwise, pull the lever, and then you can slide it down to whatever angle you want. So if you squeeze the lever, move it away from the set position and release the trigger, it will actually automatically lock at certain locations. So you've got positive stops for 45, 31.6, 22.5, 15 and 0. So I actually like the way they've done the scale, because some of my older saws have either got the plate with the scale on, and sometimes they come apart and start lifting up and they can shift side to side, making the measurements totally inaccurate. or they'll be printed on and over time they wear out and you can't read it. Whereas these are actually machined onto the base, so almost like braille, and they're never going to wear out, which I think is really good. You can also undo this little knob at the back, and that allows you to slide this section of the fence left and right. Main reason for that is if you're beveling the saw, so you're tilting it over, if you don't move the fence you can sometimes cut into it. And then to tighten it up, you just do the knob back up. It also has onboard storage for the Allen key, which is another nice feature. Right, so on the side of the saw is where you'll find the depth stop, and this is if you want to do a non-through cut or a trench cut or a dado. If you want to do a normal cut, you just leave it in the open position, but if you want to do like a trench cut, then just flip the little lever down and you can wind the knob in or out to set the depth, and that way when you plunge the saw down it'll only go to the depth that you've set. Really handy feature to have. So if you want to tilt the saw over, then you've got a little plastic knob at the back. Undo that and then you can tilt the saw over. You'll see there's a little metal pin just below that, and with the pin actually in the in position, as in pushed all the way in, when you tilt the saw over it'll automatically stop at 33.9. so if you want to flip it all the way over to 45 degrees, then pull the metal pin out and that will allow you to flip the saw all the way to 45. Right, so this is your trigger, and you'll see there's a little black safety switch. So without operating the safety switch, you can't press it. So to activate the saw, just use your finger, slide the little switch, and then you can pull the trigger. The good thing about this handle is it's been done so it's ambidextrous, so it can be used with your left hand as well. So you just hold it, knock the trigger to the left, pull the trigger, and it's easy with that hand as it is with your right one. So if I just slot a battery on, you'll see that as soon as I operate the safety switch, it puts the light on. So the next thing I'm going to show you, I really like. Now, as we all know, a lot of mitre saws come with the laser, which you can sometimes adjust and sometimes you can't. But the problem with lasers is when it's really bright, you can't really see it. So I know that some of the more expensive high-end DeWalt saws have got the shadow line. Well, Evolution have gone for the same thing. So when you activate the safety switch, I hope it's going to show up on camera, the light comes on, and as you bring the blade down to the workpiece, you can see it produces a perfect shadow line, and that lets you know exactly where your blade is going to be cutting, and I really love that. So this is your angle marker, and obviously to adjust that when you're fine tuning the saw, just loosen the screw and you'll be able to move that so it's exactly where you need it to be. So to adjust the bevel, you've got a little scrub screw there and one the other side. So to fine tune it, if it's slightly out, you just undo the locking nut, which is the bottom one, wind this in or out depending on which way you need to adjust it, and then lock the bottom one down, and that gives you your positive stops for 45 and 0. Let's try it out and see just how powerful it is. I'm only using the supplied dust bag, not going to hook it up to the shop vac right now, so let's give it a go. One thing I really like is the soft start and the blade brake. I mean, it stops absolutely on a dime. That is really impressive. Power wise, it's got plenty of power. I mean, this is a bit of softwood, CLS stud work 4x2, but it glides through that. I mean, it doesn't even bog down. Really, really impressive. I thought it might actually bog down a bit, but it doesn't. Alright, let's just tilt it over. Go to 45. Love how that blade stops on a dime. I like that. Nice clean cuts as well. Well, in fact, let's do that. Let's move it round to 45. And see how that goes. Now, if I'm honest, I don't normally do cuts like that, but it seemed to cope with that. Just in case anyone's interested, from the front mounting holes until the very back of the rail, you're looking at about 21 inches or 54 centimeters. Alright then guys, well I think I've covered everything I wanted to cover in the video. If I have missed out anything or you've got any questions, then feel free to leave me a comment and I'll do my best to reply. So the big question is, what do I actually think of it? Well, it's left me in a bit of a quandary now because I really like it, and I built my entire Mitre station around my Hikoki saw, and although I really like that, I like this one too. The shadow line I love. The blade break is awesome, and the soft start is a nice feature which my Hikoki doesn't actually have. So, got some decisions to make. So don't forget you can use the code GRUMPIES to get 10% off your order on the Evolution website, link in the video description. Up until the 31st of May you get 10% and it reverts to 5% on the 1st of June. So keep your eyes peeled for the upcoming videos in the series. They'll be coming shortly. So until the next video, stay safe and you'll see me in the next one. Cheers for watching, guys.